So, that's basically the approach and the methodology of the course. The structures that exist in the Sharia-compliant finance field today are actually, we'll see, copycats of institutions grounded in philosophy apart from the Quran and Sunnah, and that fail to distinguish between the ontological distinction of man as beast versus man as created. It is safe to say that there are examples and practices where they depart from this. There are efforts by individuals to create truly Sharia-compliant examples. Tariq al-Dirwani, aforementioned, is a primary example. Zest Advisory is a very honest Sharia-compliant firm that does its best to survive amidst regulatory complications and amidst the environment we aforementioned to make truly Sharia-compliant investments. And there are other examples that are truly that. And we are gaining in a lot of momentum that we'll also talk about in the course. But predominantly, throughout these discussions is the notion, you'll see the notion that the industry today and the influences that pull on it are largely incapable of working towards the development of the economic order for the Muslim world that is substantially different in any way, shape, or form from the dominant secular concepts and ideologies that we see driving conventional finance in the now. We do hold the belief that a tree is known by its fruits, and that it is impossible for a tree with diseased roots to bear fruit. So while we analyze the branches of the industry, we should know that we are doing so with a quite deliberate effort to encourage those that listen to focus on the root of the phenomenon that we study. In that sense, we would truly be radicals searching for the root of the notion and understanding what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes in the Quran in Surah Al-Ibrahim, where he says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alam tara kayfa ضرب الله مثلا كلمة طيبة كشجرة طيبة أصلها ثابت وفروعها في السماء. That Allah Azza wa Jalla says, are you not aware how Allah Azza wa Jalla sets forth parables of a good word, that a good word is like a good tree rooted with its asl and its branches that extend towards the heavens or towards the sky. And this is to suggest that we must be rooted in true Islamic principles, that any agency, organization, institution, or practice in the world that is not rooted in the core principles of La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah and what was brought by the final messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam can bring nothing but destruction and can bring no fruit and can bear no fruit either in this world or the next, as Allah Azza wa Jalla continues later on in Surah Al-Ibrahim to ayah later, and he draws a comparative distinction saying وَمَثْلُ كَلِمَةٍ كَبِيثَةٍ كَشَجْرَةٍ كَبِيثَةٍ اجْتُثَّتْ مِنْ فَوْقِ الْأَرْضِ مَا لَهَا مِنْ قَرَارٍ. That Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the parable of a corrupt word is that of a corrupt tree torn up from its roots onto the face of the earth, wholly unable to endure. Ya Muslimin, we are facing a particularly difficult time. They're claiming that there is a rebound from the 2008 crash, but in reality, all efforts to remedy economic issues have only attempted to preserve an order that is corrupt to its root and are now taking a toll on the commodity prices throughout the world, driving the poor into destitute poverty and creating an end to the middle class in the developed world. And we must realize that this conversation is perhaps one of the most important that we can have. The only effective remedy for the contemporary ills and afflictions that are largely caused by economic issue is to create a system which holds at its root the principles of Islam. And therefore, perhaps amidst continuing global economic fracture, this course will contribute to a reawakening that can only occur when humanity refers to divine sources for guidance in their affairs. Inshallah ta'ala, you will all join us for these bi-weekly discussions, do the readings, participate, and then move forward with your wealth and lives in efforts to change the world. I thank you all, alhamdulillah, for listening to me. The floor is open for questions and answers, and then if you want, we can review the syllabus, talk about some of the books. It's on the homepage of IslamPolicy.com if anybody wants to go just breeze through it and see if we have any questions about the syllabus. But we'll entertain questions. I spoke for an hour and a half. That will probably be the length of the discussion each and every bi-weekly session. And I'm just going to grab a cup of water, and then inshallah ta'ala, if Salar, if you could just keep track of questions for me. I hope that people are intrigued and interested, and the floor is open for questions about anything. We'll go until 11:30 inshallah ta'ala. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yep, Asif, assalamu alaikum. Anybody that wants to attain all of the reading material, I'm going to put the Sharia-compliant course up here. You have approximately 100 different downloads here. They're all selected deliberately. The lecture for tonight, for example, came from these readings here. Not really drawn directly from the lecture, but the principles of the lecture came from there. And yeah, I think those are the links to the downloadable site. And I don't know how long it will stay up, but if it goes down, we'll put it up on a different platform. But if you email me at islampolicy@gmail.com, then you can get all the PDFs. And you have 2 weeks to read as much as possible. You don't have to read everything. You don't have to read anything. But there is the ability for you to have access to them, and they're very interesting books. Even though there's about 8 readings on average each week, they're all beneficial, and we don't have to read the whole thing. So you see, for example, the Islamic Awakening. Here, the book, The Islamic Awakening by Sheikh Mohammed ibn Saleh al-Uthaymeen, we only wanted you to read page 29 to 78. So, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. It's a collection, a collaboration of his work, but it's very well organized and a very good book. Any questions, inshallah, or should we end for the night? Yes, it's all there in the syllabus. You see in the back, at the back, wherever you see in bold, and it's included in those are the pages we expect you to read. So, Principles of Islamic Economics by Masoud Al-Lam Chowdhury, published 1983. At the back it says pages 93 to 103. We don't want you to read the whole thing. What bank to put our money in, since HSBC is not an option? The scholars say you can put your money in the banks as long as you don't draw the interest, or if you even, some go so far as to say, right, that you can give the interest that you draw to charity, better than just telling them that you don't have it. The problem with that argument is that under a fractional reserve policy, if you deposit $1 in your bank, they loan out up to $10 under standard practices at conventional banks, but even in the real world, they loan out 30 to 40 times that much. So you actually accessorize interest, and this is the fulfillment of the hadith. The Prophet ﷺ prophesied that riba will touch every house, and those that claim that it doesn't affect them will be affected by its dust. Can I show myself? I don't know. Let me see. Hold on one second. Let me see if this... I'm actually speaking with a microphone that's a webcam, but I'm new to WizIQ. Let me see. Okay. You don't have to get all your money out of the bank, because the risk associated with it, the scholars say, is not worth it. Okay, so what do I do here? Let me click this. I don't think the video works. Okay. Oh, get a glare from the glasses. It's pretty poor quality. Can you see me? Assalamu alaikum. Webcam's crazy. Yep. Yeah, bad webcam. Any more questions, inshallah? I'm not a sheikh. It's far from a sheikh. Some scholars say that if you have... Oh, man, I can't read it because people... Better than America, in my opinion. Some scholars say that if you have an I can't see it. Stop typing for 1 second. Some scholars say that if you have an existing mortgage and intend to repay of ASAP, then it is permissible and perhaps preferable to uprooting wife and kids. I don't know about this, Akhi, but I really, there's a lot of scholars about that have a lot of comments about eating even eating riba to get a mortgage for a conventional bank because of necessity, the doctrine of necessity and maslaha, and but the fact of the matter is that it's common reality that riba-based transactions are haram, and to eat riba is severe indeed. The least grade of riba is like fornication with your mother, and there's 73 grades. So even if it's a very low, small piece, I don't think that you want to go to the grave or into the akhirah with it's true, it's particularly problematic, right? So even if you want to do this, then I wouldn't take the risk, not myself. But there's all kinds of fatwa. They use fiqh principles that apply when the Muslims are weak. It's true the religion of Islam is not stagnant. It's true that when you study fiqh, there's doctrines that allow ease, that the religion is supposed to be one of ease. But most of those fatwa, for example, the one passed by Qaradawi that made it permissible for Muslims in the West and even in Muslim countries to eat the riba to buy homes, have been refuted by other scholars, and the majority reject this. So I don't know what one you're talking about. You can forward it to me, and I can forward it to other people as well. And but guidance residential. We were speaking about when I was with Islamic Thinkers Society. We talked about some things that were going on back then, the silence amongst the Muslim communities, and I commented in a very old video, and things were very different. That there was a organization that came to the masjid, and after the Imam Shamsi Ali finished the khutbah, that they stood up and that they told people about the possibility of buying a mortgage on shariah-compliant means called Guidance Financial. On the West Coast, it's called La Riba. They're utilizing murabaha transactions. Again, it's just a basic markup. You show the house that you want to buy, they sell it to you. They're actually more expensive than a traditional conventional bank when you look at them. And what they did was they got very attached to what was Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and they got government promissory loans so that their profits were secured. And they went out and they took, when right before the housing bubble blew, they sold a whole bunch of houses to Muslims at market rates that they knew, as specialists in the field, were highly suspect to go down. For example, one of my wife's relatives bought a house in New Jersey for $300,000 plus murabaha upgrade, which will probably make it $450,000 over time. You can buy the same house in New Jersey now for under $100,000. As we know, housing prices are seriously deteriorating. I'm not going to say that they did it on purpose, but when we used to give dawah on the streets of New York, they would be there setting up, and when I would talk to the people that would represent the company and hand out the flyers about the impending housing crisis, I mean, Ben Bernanke didn't see it, but most people that understood anything about economics saw it, and we talked about the end of the housing bubble, but evidently they didn't see it. But I don't think their products are halal per se. There's definitely some fundamental flaws. We'll talk about murabaha transactions during, I think, week 3. Let's see. But murabaha is a big problem because the justification they use for markup-based sale, you should actually take physical possession of the goods. So good scholars have said that, if you want to buy a house or you want to buy a car, then the bank should actually already own it. The bank should go find a car or a house that they think is a good deal that they're going to be able to sell to a consumer for a markup grade, and they should take physical production, move it into their own showroom, have their own storage facility, because in Islam you cannot have a double contract where somebody says, I'll buy that from you for a markup, and you just give me the money to buy it, because that's a riba. And they play games. So we'll talk about that. and you emphasize